Okay, I'm going to be doing a video of what I've been up to recently. More recently, started doing an art journal. I've done journaling before, especially when I'm working on some project. I would do a lot of sketches and things like that. But this time, I just wanted to do an art journal, and specifically just with a pencil. So pencil drawings. Now, you have to understand that I'm not a young person, and that I am dyslexic, and that I can't see things the way they are. I imagine things the way they are, and I draw them that way, and it's never good. So I took on this challenge there's a site called The Unexpected Gypsy. I'll put a link to her YouTube channel. She's wonderful. And she talked about drawing, and she talked about journaling, and that's what got me the idea to do it. I did it for 30 days, and I did it in this little book. I got it on Amazon. It's a 4.5 size book. It's called Arteca. Really nice. You can take it anywhere you like. Now, the thing about doing journaling, like with a simple journaling with just a pencil, you don't have to spend any money. I did spend money on this. I think this was maybe $9. I'm not sure. You could just do paper. You could just use it on paper. And all you need is an eraser and a pencil. That's all you need. Now, of course, all right, you need a sharpener with a pencil, because you do need to keep it sharp, because you use the point as well as the side of the pencil for shading. And then the eraser, there's all kinds of erasers. I'm going to do another video about the erasers that I use, and which I found helpful. But it depends on what kind of art you are and how advanced you are in your art as far as the erasers, what you would use. But I'm just starting out, so I did use basic erasers. And the one I bought last it looks like a pencil, but there's an eraser at the end. I think that was my favorite. I used it in the last couple of ones that I drew. There was also a book mentioned by her that I will put a link on to the bottom of this video. That's a link for a book on Amazon that she recommended, and it is good. It's about using different parts of your brain and developing the right side of the brain, the more creative side rather than the left side of the brain. But I won't be going into too much of that. I'm just going to show you what I did. So these are 30 drawings, and we'll talk about them. This is the book. This is a really nice little book. It's got this little flap here. That's so cool. And then it's got this to keep it closed, and then you got a ribbon to keep your spot. I really like it. Okay, so she suggested using paper that's very smooth. You want smooth paper, and of course that makes sense, because you're doing pencil on paper. And so she says you want to make sure you get a nice smooth piece of paper, not watercolor paper or canvas, whatever, panels or wood panels. So here's my first one. I have a candelabra in the house. We burn candles, and we get all this wax on them. So this is it's a live drawing I did. And in other words, what the source material wasn't a picture, because I did use pictures as well. But this is just a candelabra of mine. And it was pretty fast, because I didn't, there's really no dimension in it, but there is a little bit of dimension down here with this. So after I did the dimension and thought about where the light is coming from, putting shading on one side, that really helps two-dimensional objects. So I know about that from my own art that I'm doing, but I don't usually think too much about it. But the light source is important, where you have to sort of know where the light's coming, because then you have the light and you have the dark, the shadow, and that gives it a more of dimension. So that's something to keep in mind when you're drawing. And so what you're working with essentially is the paper color, which is white, a pencil, which is different. I mean, depending how hard you press, you can get quite dark or light. And then the other thing you can use with the eraser is when you want to remove certain certain colors, and then get another, you go back to the paper below. So erasers, you're actually kind of drawing with erasers, and you'll see more of that as I go on. This was day 1. Okay, this is day 2. This was a ikebana I have with dried flowers in it. This was not easy, but then I realized, it doesn't have to be totally realistic, because dried flowers are very, very organic looking, very interesting looking. And the light is coming this way, which I tried to consider. So I made some dark areas over here. And then I just started adding, here you see the light here and then the dark there. This part turned out really nice. And then the flowers I didn't like, but then as time has gone, as I look at it now, I really like the organicness of the flowers. And again, this is a still life, a drawing from something live. This was another live drawing. It's a glass jar with some pencil shavings, and I did some dark and light. This part here, this reflected glass, when you look at reflected glass, it's actually white. You paint it kind of white, because it's really, if you're using paints, you can't really make it clear, but you make it white, and you put the color around it. And so these little loops I did here, really I did with the eraser. So that made it really easy to do. I did erasers. Whenever I saw the light, I did the erasers to get rid of the pencil marks. There's another eraser mark there. Some eraser marks here, and some highlighting with the darker bits of the pencil shavings. I really like how this turned out, and it was really not hard at all. It's pretty easy. When you start thinking about light and dark, and you can always erase to bring in that lightness again. In other words, I didn't have to paint this or draw this and consider these loops first. I could just add them in by getting rid of the pencil marks. Now this one I did these pages can rip off, which is nice. I did a drawing here of this person. This is a rag doll that I had. I like the way the dress turned out. The face and the hair turned out right. The face that I did, I couldn't get the ragdoll face for some reason. And it was just a triangle, a half circle, and 2 dots. And I don't know why I had so much trouble with it. I ended up just doing another picture of her, and then I did a regular kind of face. And I think, thinking back on it, the reason why I didn't like the face was I just didn't like the face. I didn't like the ragdoll face. It was just too flat, too simplistic. So I got rid of it, and I think that was my problem. I just didn't like, because it didn't have a neck. It just had the two dots and the triangle for a nose and a half circle for the mouth, and then the neck just kind of went into the body, and I didn't care for that. So that was that. So this is mostly looking at the doll with the hair. She had all this yarn hair, but the face is something I made up. This is a column, and we have one of these in the den. And this was not easy at all. This was hard to do, but you can see where I did the erasers here. It makes you when you're doing this just with a pencil, you start thinking more about contrast and shapes, because there's no color, so you have to really think about contrast and shapes. So there's all these variations of tone, and it's all because I'm using a pencil against the white, and also using the point of the pencil, like where the really dark spots are, and then with the shading, like the edge of the pencil. Of course, people learn this in art school or learn this on their own. I never tried to do this, so it's all new to me. And I just kept going forward. This was really, actually this part was really challenging, but I kept it up. I spent maybe 15 minutes to an hour on any one piece. I didn't go too long. This is a picture of an A-Nin I saw online. So this was from a picture, and it doesn't really look like her, but this was fun. So I got away from the still lifes with the actual object in front of me, and then I was looking at something flat that was already flat. And I believe this was a black and white picture, so that also makes it easier. I like how this turned out. It definitely looks, and then I did this shading thing up there. So when I was drawing from a picture, it was easier. It seemed to be easier. 7. Someone, I don't know if it was the book that I was reading or something I saw, they said, just look at, now this is from like a magazine. It said just to look at the outlines of people and just quickly sketch the outlines of people. And that's what I did here. So I was just looking at it was a runner's magazine or something, and I just did a real quick sketch of the whole bodies and the 3 women that were walking. And I was surprised at how it was easier than I thought it would be. And a lot of times it's better to just kind of just do it. You have an eraser, you can erase things. But, just kind of go in there and do it. Don't worry too much about specifics. There's like 2 ways to do this. You can be real general or you can be very specific. This was very general. And this was a problem here because I had a girl behind the other girl, but I somehow figured out the legs. And that looked pretty good. Now this was interesting. This was a photograph of Cantabria, which is the ocean scene in northern Spain. And I figured, I've done a lot of landscapes, painting landscapes. They're a lot of fun. There's a lot of leeway with a landscape. You don't have to be too. It's more organic. It's less detailed. So there was this rock formations and then a tree. There was some land up here. Then there was the distant mountains and the sky, and it was it wasn't challenging with the pencil, but what was challenging, which I spent a fair amount of time with, were the waves. I was having a lot of trouble with the waves, and I think at the very end I just kind of started taking on, using my eraser and going across this way, and then the waves looked perfect. So as you do this, you learn from it. Like, I know how to do waves now. I didn't know how to do waves, or I wasn't doing them right. There's also this line up here. This was another erasure, of this distant either shore or, it looks like a beach up in the distance. And that was just through a line of erasing. Okay, now we're coming to this young lady. This was a picture. I don't know if this was a painting or a picture, but it wasn't live, I know that. And then I took some liberties with her very long neck and her face. But what I really like about this is the body. I've never done this orientation of a body ever. You're usually just straight on. They're not this with the leg crossed and with the arms going in different directions. I don't know how to do that, but I did it in this one. So I was really happy with this. And the sneakers, and then the face and the neck is something that I changed, but I like this a lot. It just gave me confidence that I can do figures in different positions. This was another figure. I think this was a painting that I found online. And I just started copying it. And I remember the dress was an issue. The hands, I don't usually do hands very well. Just little things like this thing in the neck that we have, that people have. Her looking off to the side. These are all things that I've never done before. I always do these chairs. I like these overstuffed chairs. And just the flow of the gown and the beginning of the hands. Again, I did pointing where the light's coming from. The light's coming from here, so we had the shading on this side, along this side. And that helps with the three-dimensionality of it. This one was interesting. This was from an AI piece of one of my paintings. It was an iteration of one of my paintings, and it doesn't really look like this. I kind of drew it like the AI did, but then I changed, as if you do AI art, a lot of times they're missing limbs. So it was missing I think it was missing this arm or something. And the dress was something different. And the face everything was different about her, actually. So, but I really like what I did with this sweater. And the hands, I like that. But just this dimensionality of the sweater. And the dark on this side, the light on that side, because the light's coming in here. And I did a little dark there. It's kind of got like a pleated skirt. She looks like a perfect schoolgirl. French schoolgirl. So that's 11. 12, I went into another quick sketches. I can't remember where I found these online, and these were like dancers, I guess. No, these were dancers. And these were just strange women in strange positions. And I just did them really quickly. And I'm sort of intrigued by when material sort of drapes, so it was my beginning of my draping. I started doing it earlier too with this one. I started doing some draping, and it's really not that hard, but the more you do, the better you get at it. So there's 12. So here's another. Now here's 13. Here's a lot of draping. This is a painting from someone from a long time ago, and her face is great. She's looking away up this way. So she's looking away, she's not looking directly in the camera. She has a veil on, and then she's got these kind of very old 18th century clothes. And this took a fair amount of time. You can see all the different, I had really dark pencil marks, and then the lighter ones, and then the mid-tones even. So I had a lot of mid-tones in this, and then the white here, and her face. The veil that she had was lacy. I kind of captured this pretty good considering, it doesn't look like the picture per se, but I did a lot of different techniques on this, which was very interesting. I was really happy with this. This is a Degas. This was the first one I tried to do with what do you call those, squares? And it did help with the face, but this again was pretty hard to do. It turned out pretty good though. And then again, you're just using one pencil, and you're pressing harder, pressing lighter. I'm really happy with the hands. Hands are something again I don't do. This face is hard to do, because I had a square in there and I was squaring it off. I was able to do the face easier than I would have normally. I think I did go back to this to do this end here, but this turned out pretty good. It's a very notable Degas painting. This was also from a painting. This also may be Degas, only it's interpretation. I'm working with this heavy sweater. I'm working with more hands. She's looking off to the side. She's got a hat on. The flowers are sort of abstract. It's turned out really nice. I was happy because I thought the face was very expressive, and I think that this one, the light's coming from this angle. Yeah, it's coming from that angle. This was a picture from Marc Chagall, and the challenge here was having a person. It was a photograph of a person in front of another person, and the shading, and how to distinguish the two. And I realized one way to distinguish it, which was not in the painting, was to have the man's clothes be striped and hers be more solid. And then there's shading in here. The light source seems to be coming from this way, up this way. The hair is different. So this was actually a challenge for me to do this, because it's two people in one picture. This one is another Degas, and this turned out remarkably well, considering I did spend at least an hour on this. I may have spent more than an hour. I think I maybe spent 2 days on this one. I really like this part that turned out. I really like the front. her head is still not quite right. But this section here turned out really well. And again, what you're doing is you're using these pencils, and you're doing a lot of shading. The light's coming from here, so all this back is lighter. So I was doing a fair amount of erasing. And then she's wearing a tutu, or something that's see-through. And so it turned out better than I expected, although I'm not happy with the face. Okay, this was a black and white photograph of a singer. I was really happy with this. I'm getting more comfortable with working with source material that's pictures. There's a lot of variability in the shading. There's expression in the face. This was good. I'm starting to realize where the ears are, where the eyes are in proportion. I started thinking about this triangle here. Whenever someone's looking off to one side or the other, I start seeing this triangle shape here. So when you want a 3/4 view, I'm thinking of that triangle, the triangle right there. This is Joni Mitchell. This is an old picture of her. I don't know where I found it. I found it online, obviously. Very heavy-handed. It looks like a caricature of her almost. Well, not almost. It definitely looks like a caricature of it. She was a big smoker. I don't know if she still smokes that. Probably. Hopefully not. It was a lot of fun. I spent a fair amount of time on that. And then the eyes. And that's another thing. When you get erasers, you can kind of go in there and do all kinds of cool things with the eyes, the eye color, the eye. You can give it light, and you would use erasers for that. I had a hard time with the hand, but then it sort of worked out well. Now the other thing I did use, I started using it in this picture. I'm not sure if I started using it in other pictures. You can also use those smudgers. They're like white things, and you can smudge pencils. And I remember smudging a lot of this to make it, darker and less texture. And then again, the hair, you can draw the hair, the eye's coming from this side, but then you can make it lighter by erasing parts of it and getting these different tones on the hair thing. And then again, you erase some of the hand to get the fingers, the top of the fingers to show it better. So this all really helps you see things, the tones of things, the saturation, black and white. This was a painting by Romaine somebody. What I like about this painting is just this, this flowy thing. She's very dramatic. I can't remember her last name, but her first name is Romaine, and she was doing paintings in the 1920s, and they're all black and white or gray tones, but they're painted. They're not pencil drawings. They're pretty dramatic. So I worked on this a lot, this thing here, and I like that. Oh, this is a famous Matisse. This is Mademoiselle Matisse. It's a famous. She's blue, usually blue. So I tried to do something that's recognizable, and it was fun to do. Of course, only with the pencil, nothing else. You can make the dark eyes when you have a really sharp pencil, and then there's different gradations. And then there's light going through these. There's white up in these spindles, and you erase them. You get to them by erasing them. It's 24. This is a John Singer Sargent painting, very famous. It doesn't quite look like this. The challenge with this one was the dress. It's all this frilly dress and these layers, and then the arms show through. So that was a challenge for me. And it turned out pretty good, I think. The face is not as pretty as his face, but then again, And she's sitting in a different position. Her one arm is dangling on this side, the hands are here. The hands aren't really developed too well. This is a Klimt, a woman with a fan. It's my favorite Klimt I have this in my bedroom, this picture. It's a huge one. Recently sold for, I don't know, $50 million or something. Um, yeah, I don't know about this one. It's kind of weird. I kind of like how this turned out, this kind of abstract dark light thing, the clothing. And I like how the nose turned out and the eyes. Um, that's 26. This was from a photograph. This was amazing to me. I started with the background. I shaded it all in with pencil, like a mid-tone. And then I just looking at the light, and I started doing the light parts first. And then I started adding the features, and then going back and forth between the shading and the erasing and the harder pencil. And this is just beautiful. I mean, I can't believe I did this. But again, it's a lot with the shading, a lot with light, a lot with erasing. And this is what you learn by just working with a pencil. Okay, this one I did. I'm not going to talk about that right now because that's one of the exercises in the book. But this was 28. Now this is a sketch, a famous sketch by Picasso of, I think it's Igor Stravinsky. I think that's who this is. Anyway, so the book says to take a sketch and do the sketch and do it upside down and do it right side up and see the difference. And so it's a line sketch that I drew, and I did it fairly quickly. I did this first, the upside down one, and then I did the right side up one. This looks far more like the original picture than this does. So I still have a ways to go in my visual acuity and my hand-eye coordination or something. This turned out really good. So anyways, it made me think that looking at things upside down may be, for me, a way to go for me if I get confused about how to draw something from a reference material. So this is 28. And we have 20. Didn't we skip some? Wait a minute. I think we did skip some because I have something in okay. This is 29. This is a Sheely. And she doesn't have an arm, but the picture doesn't have an arm. You don't really notice it. What I was looking for was more this face, a different kind of face. It has great faces. Now, I did skip some because there's some back here that I somehow, for some reason, yeah. Okay, this is 20. I think I skipped 20 in the back one. This was just a really quick, I wasn't looking at anything. I was just drawing a face, and I wanted an interesting face, and I just drew this face, 20. So that came after, not that anyone cares, but okay, let's see where we left off. 17, wait a minute, there's 18, 19, where's 18? Huh. 20, there's 18, 19. Anyways, that's 20. Quick sketch. Oh, they're backwards. 18. This is just something. There was a source picture for this, but I can't remember what it was. It looks nothing like this. I think it was another Matisse. But it's kind of like I got everything involved. I got everything on the page, which is kind of nice. I did the floor on the background. A lightness coming from this side. Look at my hands, they're dirty. 18, 19. Again, I kind of went from here to then go to this one. And this was just me drawing and adding some things. So 18, 19, and then 20. I don't know when I did those. I did this later. 20, and then I went to, oh, 21. Okay, 21, 22. So then I went back to this. And my last one, I think I showed this one. This is 29. And my last one is 30, this one here, which I absolutely love. So I finished up here. started there, ended up here, which is really cool. After I did this, I just started playing around with faces and looking up, looking at this impossible neck, and just looking at this picture and saying what I like about it and how I can maybe put it in other faces. So that's what I did over a period of 30 days. I will put this online if you're so inclined. I want to do a couple more videos about it. I want to talk about erasers a little bit. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.